The marketplace is up next on the show tonight with news of the U.S. and China partially pausing tariffs. Some consumers probably paid more for products last week than they will for the next couple of months.
A lot of consumers might be thinking, maybe I should return some of the stuff that I hoarded because now I have another 90 days to remake the same decision.
Tariffs and trade, that's next on Marketplace. And a reminder that at 7 o'clock tonight here on WNYC, the primary race for New Jersey governor is crowded and is just under a month away. Join us for a conversation amongst the Democrats vying to succeed Phil Murphy. That live conversation is tonight at 7 o'clock on WNYC. We're coming up on 6:30.
WNYC support comes from Rinse, offering wash and fold, dry cleaning, and hang dry services. Pickups can be scheduled online or with the Rinse app, and the clothes are delivered cleaned, folded, and ready to wear. More at rinse.com.
If you believe democracy requires a free press, your station is WNYC, 93.9 FM and AM 820, NPR News and the New York Conversation.
Marketplace is supported by Bitwarden Password Manager, helping to secure personal logins during every career shift, fresh start, or new opportunity. Learn more at bitwarden.com.
You've got 90 days to figure out what is going on in this economy. Ready? Go! From American Public Media, this is Marketplace.
Marketplace is supported by Raymond James, a firm focused on transforming lives, businesses, and communities through tailored wealth management, banking, and capital markets solutions. Disclosures at raymondjames.com. And by WSJ Plus, a news bundle that brings together business and finance insights from the Wall Street Journal, MarketWatch, Barron's, and Investors Business Daily, all on one platform, so readers can explore every angle. And by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what small businesses need.
In Los Angeles, I'm Kai Ryssdal. Monday today, 12 May. Good as always to have you along, everybody. 90 days from today puts us at the 10th of August. And in between now and then, American businesses and consumers have to figure out how they are going to handle the temporary and partial easing of the near total trade embargo between the United States and China that was announced this morning. That is thing number one of interest. Thing number two is what, if anything, today's news is going to mean, big picture, for the damage already done. That's what we've gotten Adam Posen on the phone to talk about. He's the president of the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Good to be back with you, Kai.
So you woke up this morning, you saw the news. What did you think?
A few things. First, we went from being in a failed economic policy to a D+ or maybe C- economic policy, so that's progress. Second, that we are still worse off than before Trump started the trade war with China. Tariffs are still going to be high. There's still going to be shortages temporarily. There's still going to be recessionary effects and higher inflation probably. But it's at least not a total embargo, which, as Secretary Bessent said, well, it made no sense. And third, the question is always, what was this all for? And the reduction in tariffs doesn't seem to achieve anything in conditioning it on changes in Chinese behavior. So
the reason we had you on, like a week, 10 days ago, was to talk about what the White House and Secretary Bessent mean when they say rebalancing global trade and the global economy. Do you think, certainly 145% tariffs and effective trade embargo wasn't going to do it. Do you think this gets us closer now, these levels of tariffs?
I guess it gets us from to completely unbalanced to something a little more reasonable, but no, it doesn't. I mean, they're continuing to try to address, as I said when we last spoke, a macro problem of U.S. not saving enough and China not spending enough by putting on tariffs, and the size of the tariffs you have to put on to move that is totally destructive. So it's not going to help. It's also strengthening U.S. currency and growth, which is a perfectly good thing, but that isn't going to help us reduce imports either.
Is there a possibility that what happens if we settle now at 30%-ish tariffs on Chinese imports, which, to be clear, is still far higher than they were on the 20th of January, right? Is it possible that this manifests merely, and I'm using that in air quotes, in higher prices and does not go so far as to affect sort of rising unemployment and a greater economic slowdown?
It is possible. It is more likely that what we get is a slowdown short of a recession, so weaker growth and a slight rise in unemployment, but nothing disastrous. The point is that ultimately, if you want to reduce dependence on the rest of the world, or particularly on China, Kai, you have to prepare ahead. You have to figure out alternative sources. You have to stockpile. You have to create domestic production of things that currently are incredibly expensive or impossible to get outside of China. And we haven't done any of that. We didn't do that under Biden. We haven't done that under Trump. So this is still going to be a hit to real incomes. It's still going to leave a lot of small businesses and suppliers to big businesses without things. It's still going to increase prices. It's just not going to be as bad as it would have been going crazy.
One more thing, Adam, and then I'll let you go. And that is the observation that even as the United States and China somewhat ameliorate the trade embargo that we had, global trade goes on, and it goes on without us.
Absolutely. Colleagues of mine at Peterson Institute have been working on this, as have many others. And China goes on with the rest of the world. Europe goes on with the rest of the world. The rest of the world goes on with the rest of the world. I mean, this is the one good thing that could come out of the UK-US empty deal, is a pathway to deepening trade with our national security allies like UK, Canada, Japan, Australia, Korea. If the Trump administration really did that, that would be a way of getting on with globalization somewhat constructively, and that was something the Biden administration failed to do, how much they ever talked about friendshoring. But then you have to look at it as a relationship, not extortion.
Do you suppose then, sorry, just picking up on that last point, do you suppose we have two tiers of trading relationships? We have one tier with our strategic allies, and then there's everybody else and the people we don't like so much.
We could. That would be a reasonable second best, as long as you didn't label everything a national security excuse and mess up the economy. But that would be a reasonable way. And again, the Biden people sort of talked about doing that with what they called IPEF or friendshoring, and they never actually carried through. The Trump people haven't said they would do that, but if they did, again, that would be a more constructive way of rebalancing our security and our economics, which is actually worth doing.
Adam Posen at the Peterson Institute for International Economics. Adam, thanks a bunch. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kai.
Unless I am sorely mistaken, it is going to be the really happy music when we get there. But the market euphoria du jour does prompt the observation that this was a relief rally, because the self-inflicted economic pain is going to back off just a little bit. Details, numbers, you all know the drill. What's going to happen in the next 90 days, 3 short months, is kind of a natural experiment in behavioral economics. Because as we have said a time or two, incentives do matter. Marketplace's Henry Epp has the consumer side of this tariff equation.
Here's the conundrum for consumers. Is it worth it to buy a lot of something now, assuming that it will be more expensive or harder to find in the near future? For Yao Jin, an associate professor of supply chain management at Miami University, that something is a certain kind of black vinegar.
The vinegar that I bought is Qingqiang. It is a very traditional Chinese vinegar.
It's imported, he uses it all the time, and Trump imposed tariffs on Chinese imports totaling 145%. So
I bought 3 gallons worth of these black vinegars last weekend, which ironically, a week later, the tariffs got suspended. Yay.
So maybe that purchase was a mistake, or maybe the price will go up again and it'll have been worth it. That uncertainty is not going away, says Joanne Shu, who heads the University of Michigan's Consumer Sentiment Survey.
I think that consumers are still going to feel like tariff policy is still volatile. They're not going to feel resolution.
Because the latest tariff pause is supposed to last 90 days. And just a month ago, the last time the Trump administration put a 90-day pause on a different set of tariffs, Shu's survey didn't show any increase in optimism.
I think consumers really are continuing to wait for the other shoe to drop,
which could lead to a downturn in consumer spending. But so far, we haven't really seen that play out, says Ted Rossman at Bankrate.
People are still going out to eat. A lot of retailers have posted surprisingly strong results lately. The big question has been, will that last?
And will consumers who did stock up rethink those choices? Again, Yao Jin at Miami University.
A lot of consumers might be thinking, maybe I should return some of the stuff that I hoarded, because now I have another 90 days to remake the same decision.
But he'll be holding on to his 3 gallons of black vinegar, he says, because it actually gets better as it ages. I'm Henry App for Marketplace.
So imagine for a second you're an American company that imports some of the things Henry Epp was just telling us American consumers are thinking maybe they're going to buy, depending on what the next 90 days bring. That kind of uncertainty is nobody's recipe for a successful way to plan your business. Trying to figure out your cost of goods sold today versus what you thought that cost was going to be last week. So we've done what a lot of businesses are doing today, I imagine, calling our customs brokers. Gretchen Blau is ours. She's at Logistics Plus in Erie, Pennsylvania.
Well, so far, we've had a lot of inquiries as to whether or not the tariffs are dropping on particular items. We've been seeing a lot of inquiries as to how fast things can be here. We've had people that are trying to stock up during this 90-day pause. It's kind of hard to give anyone a definitive answer as to how it affects their products because the news reports are stating that the tariffs are dropping from 145% to 30%. However, that 145% encompasses 2 tariffs, the reciprocal tariff and the China-Hong Kong tariff. So we're not quite sure how that's going to be distributed. There hasn't been an executive order posted, which means there's nothing in the Federal Register yet. And last week there was a executive order issued regarding stacking tariffs, which means how all those tariffs line up and what applies to what articles. We're supposed to find that information out this Friday, and so that might affect a lot of what we're talking about with China here. So we have to wait and see. As far as the time frame goes, some of these tariffs that have come out were issued at the point of arrival, or there have been exclusions for items that were on the water. So we have to wait and see if there's going to be an exclusion issued for things that are on the water, meaning that the reduction won't come until a certain point, or if everything has immediately dropped. So we're waiting for those details. I'd like to think it is the light at the end of the tunnel for this, but we're not sure at all. We're still dealing with all the other countries around the world and negotiating how those tariffs will shake out. And yeah, it just depends on how things work out with other countries as well.
Gretchen Blau, Logistics Plus in Erie, Pennsylvania. Coming up.
These people are saying that they want to expose luxury's biggest secret.
Caveat emptor on TikTok. But first, let's do the numbers. Yeah, here you go. Dow Industrial's up 1,160 points today, 2.8%, closed at 42,410. NASDAQ up 779, 4.4%, 18,708. S&P 500 added 184 points, 3.3%, 58 and 44. Along with the major indices, the dollar index against major currencies finished up almost 2% today. So what do you suppose people do with all that gold they bought when markets were crashing? Many will have to ponder this as gold futures took a hit today, down 3%. Brent crude up 1.6%, probably because people are thinking lower tariffs, more trade, more fuel needed to make all of that stuff happen, right? Bond prices fell. Yield on the 10-year T-note up 4.47% on the 10-year. You're listening to Marketplace.
The Numbers is supported by Mercury, a fintech that offers banking, credit cards, and financial software. Marketplace is supported by Progressive. Progressive Commercial Auto Insurance protects the cars, trucks, and vans that work to keep small businesses moving forward, including protection while running errands and other tasks. More at progressivecommercial.com. And by Odoo, dedicated to providing software designed to scale with businesses. Odoo's programs for manufacturing, accounting, and more aim to provide building blocks for creating a custom software suite. Odoo, what small businesses need. And by ADP Research, committed to making the world of work more productive through data-driven discovery. Insights at work for the future of work. Learn more at adpresearch.com.
WNYC receives support from Mercury. Mercury offers banking and financial software to help businesses send money, create invoices, pay bills, and more all in one place. Learn more at mercury.com.
If 1,000 listeners make a sustaining donation by 7 p.m. on Wednesday, it will unlock an additional $50,000 for WNYC. The recently proposed federal budget seeks to defund public broadcasting. Reliable support from sustaining members is what we need to fill that funding gap. Start a monthly gift or increase your monthly gift today. Donate at WNYC.org or call 888-376-WNYC. And thanks.
You're listening to Marketplace on WNYC. Coming your way at 7 o'clock tonight, a conversation amongst the Democrats vying to succeed Phil Murphy to be governor of the Garden State. That's coming up at 7 o'clock here on WNYC. Stay tuned.
This is Marketplace. I'm Kai Rizdal. Trade is, of course, the global economic lead story of late, but forget not the guts and gears of the American economy, by which I mean, in this instance, the gigantic Republican tax package that various and sundry House committees are starting work on this week. It will extend parts of the 2017 Trump tax cuts and make trillions of dollars in cuts to other programs to get that done. Marketplace's Kimberly Adams sets you up to follow the happenings this week in Washington.
Lots of bills come up in Congress and go nowhere, but this GOP reconciliation bill is being specifically designed to pass without Democratic votes. But that takes a lot of steps. Brendan Duke is with the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities.
A few months ago, the House passed kind of their blueprint for the tax and budget bill. And now they've just started actually putting some flesh on the bones.
Congress is in the process of deciding which specific policies are in and out. And the top priority in this bill, tax cuts.
So in the reconciliation bill that they're talking about doing now, Trump has his goals of a large tax cut and extending the previous tax cuts from 2017.
Jennifer Victor teaches political science at George Mason University.
And that costs a lot of money. And so the reconciliation bill has to figure out how they're going to sort of offset that.
To the tune of $4 trillion, likely more. But in the last few days, we've started to hear just how Republicans want to do that. Max Guinness is CEO of Policy Engine, a tech company whose software simulates the effect of economic policies.
What came out on Friday night was an outline that included extension of rates, a standard deduction, alternative minimum tax, some of those really big pieces of the bill that came out in 2017.
And we're getting more details on cuts to food assistance programs and Medicaid designed to offset the cost of those tax cuts. Bobby Kogan is with the Center for American Progress and says the Medicaid cuts in particular are already getting a lot of pushback.
What we see is a bill that would kick over 8 million people off their health insurance by instituting the largest Medicaid cuts in all of history.
But this is still legislation in progress, and lobbyists, advocacy groups, and voters will have a lot to say before a final version of the bill. In Washington, I'm Kimberly Adams for Marketplace.
We do commodity prices on this program every now and then. Oil mostly, gold sometimes, soybeans almost never until today. Soybean futures on the Chicago Board of Trade today up 1.75% on that news of a partial thaw in the trade embargo with the number one customer for American farm commodities. Now, with the caveat that 90 days does not a total reprieve make, Marketplace's Savannah Peters has more on what that part of American agriculture might like to see should a longer-term arrangement come to pass.
North Dakota soybean farmer Josh Gackel made some time for me from the tractor this morning.
Driving through the field, yes, as we speak.
Gackel is also chair of the American Soybean Association. And even though he's out planting in the wind in 90-degree heat, he's in a better mood than the last time we spoke, about 6 weeks ago.
We're making progress and getting the crop in the ground, so it feels good.
That's because Gackel woke up to news that China is buying again. That's the biggest international market for U.S. soybeans.
Still yet a lot to be done, but grateful that the two countries are talking.
I mean, these farmers, they're the ultimate optimists.
Jim Sutter is CEO of the U.S. Soybean Export Council. He says this trade war has been tough on U.S. commodity farmers' nerves, but it has yet to make a serious impact on many of their bottom lines, since the steepest tariffs began at the tail end of the export season for U.S. soybeans and grains.
The most important thing is that by the time we start to harvest our crop, we need to have some sort of a deal in place with China.
A deal that addresses the volatility producers have been dealing with, says agricultural economist Amy Hagerman at Oklahoma State University.
You're looking for stability in that relationship. You're looking for favorable terms of trade.
Hagerman says that means lower tariffs on U.S. goods over the long term, and possibly a commitment by China to purchase more crops. That's a top priority for farmer Josh Gackel in North Dakota.
Shows a commitment from Chinese buyers that they will continue to look to the U.S. when it comes to making those purchases.
Rather than Brazil and other South American suppliers who filled the gap during Trump's last trade war with China, Gackel is cautiously hopeful that by the time it goes to market, his crop will be worth the investment he's putting into it.
You know, that 90 days would be in August.
When the soybeans he's planting now are about ready to be harvested. I'm Savannah Peters for Marketplace.
Whatever the long-term fate of the Sino-American trading relationship turns out to be, fact is that for the moment, damage has already been done. Case in point, data out of Beijing at the end of April showing both exports and manufacturing over there in general fell. It was the biggest drop since the pandemic. And that slowdown's got some Chinese manufacturers trying something new, a more personal approach, if you will, using TikTok to sell directly to consumers overseas. Saiwei Chun had the story in the MIT Technology Review the other day. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Describe these videos for me, would you? Were I to dial one up, what would I see?
So in the past few weeks, there has been this wave of TikTok videos featuring Chinese manufacturers. A lot of time, just a guy in broken English sitting at a desk or in a warehouse pointing to a lot of luxury products made by them at their factory. These people are saying that they want to expose luxury's biggest secret and reveal that they are actually the manufacturers and artisans behind world-famous prestigious luxury brands like Hermes, Louis Vuitton, Prada, Gucci, and a lot of consumer brands like Lululemon and Victoria's Secret.
So this is just cutting out the middleman, right? They're just going straight to consumer now. The question, of course, is why?
That's right. They're calling on American TikTok viewers to go directly to them to buy these bags. They feel like the Western brands have been taking all the markup, all the premium, while they're doing the hard work. And this like invisibility of manufacturing is kind of by design, right? Like consumers only get to see the prestige of like these luxury products without seeing who made them. And with the Trump era tariff, I think that has prompted a sense of like anger and discontent within these Chinese manufacturers, especially with like Vice President J.D. Vance calling Chinese manufacturers peasants. That has like gone viral on Chinese social media. And what these factory owners are making is the point that even with the tariff, it is still going to be drastically cheaper than when you're buying from the brand directly, because it is the brand that is creating this premium and markup. There is a widespread claim, which is a pair of Lululemon yoga pants only costs $4. And that's surprising, right? And even like with all the markup, it's still going to be very, very affordable.
It's classic, B2C instead of B2B. But I'll tell you what, I am intrigued by the idea of a factory on the other side of the world as a content creation backdrop, right?
Yes. I actually have been an avid follower of factory content on TikTok as a genre. And it
Wait, sorry. So that's the thing you do on TikTok? You just scroll through factory videos?
Yeah. And I think this experience is not alone. There is even a meme content genre. There's a guy called Tony that I personally love.
I'm sorry. Tony, the Chinese factory guy on TikTok? Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Tony, the Lightbox guy.
Okay.
Tony actually speaks really good English among them. He can do a really good Trump impression. He got really, really viral. There is Donghua Jinglong, which is this industrial glycine factory that went viral last year because they're just so seriously promoting their niche product in like machine translated English. And it's a fascinating thing to see like the Western TikTok users didn't get like weirded out by that.
I totally need to retrain my algorithm. I need to start looking for some of those videos. It does occur to me though that, with the volume of trade between China and the United States, there's a scale thing, right? These folks are nibbling at the margins, and it's not like it's going to actually affect the larger trade relationship.
Right. I honestly do not think this TikTok trend we're seeing is an actual serious attempt for them to directly sell to U.S. customers. But I do think this has revealed that there is this like disconnect, and people has this desire for the whole manufacturing industry to be more transparent. So yeah, I think this is more of a venting operation and like for people to express their feeling about the tariff.
Which is, of course, what the internet is for. Cai-Wei Chen, she's at the MIT Technology Review. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Marketplace is supported by LHH. LHH empowers professionals and organizations to achieve their ambitions and secure lasting impact through custom advisory services and talent solutions. LHH, a beautiful working world. Learn more at lhh.com/beautiful.
This final note on the way out today, in which I once again remind you that President Trump's tariffs are taxes overwhelmingly paid by American consumers. The Treasury Department said today it collected $16.3 billion in customs duties in April. That is a monthly record. 90 days, August 10th. We will keep you posted. Our daily production team includes Andy Corbin, Nicholas Guillaume, Maria Hollenhorst, Iru Ekbenobi, Sarah Leeson, Sean McHenry, and Sophia Terenzio. I'm Kai Ryssdal. We will see you tomorrow, everybody. is 8 p.m.